It took me almost dying to stop and go, hey, this isn't worth it. Being big is not worth dying.
You're taking drugs, you're trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. That's bigorexia.
I probably saw a picture of Ronnie when he won the World Championships, I believe, and heard his name then, and saw him in the '92 Mr. Olympia, the first one I won in Finland. I believe that was his first Mr. Olympia, unless I'm mistaken. And he didn't place very highly, but I did notice him, and I thought, this guy's got a great structure and great potential. I kind of studied bodybuilding, like was the most, you know, that's all I did. I read about bodybuilding, I studied nutrition, I studied everything. So I like to think I was very good at recognizing potential. I saw Ronnie Coleman before he was really recognized. I saw Flex Wheeler. I could see people with potential, and I could see that Ronnie had the structure and the muscle bellies and so on to be very good. Fortunately, it took quite some time for him to reach that potential. All throughout my Olympia reign, he was getting better and better and better. So I think '96, he really started to look like, you know, one of the main competitors. And of course, '97 was my last one. '98 was, even myself, I think it was a surprise that Ronnie won. I mean, I knew he had potential, but I guess everyone just thought, kind of assumed that Flex was going to win because he was the heir apparent. Logically, he would be the guy to win. But Ronnie made some even further improvements that year and was able to beat Flex. So I think '92 was the first time that I saw Ronnie, but I always recognized his potential. I don't think it took him some time to optimize it. Oh, I notice everybody. I used to watch all the contest results, all the magazines, anything that was to do with my sport, I used to study it. So I could recognize people that had potential just by looking at the structure and the length of the muscle bellies and the proportions and how everything tied together. You can have a guy with something very impressive, but some genetic weaknesses on his physique, which if they're there after a few years training, generally that weakness is always going to be there. So Ronnie didn't really have any weakness. Maybe his calves were not great, but generally speaking, he had full muscle bellies all over his body, had a good structure. He was around the same height as I am and same height as Lee Haney, which is like, seems to be the optimal kind of height for Mr. Olympia, which is about 5'10", 5'11". So he had all the potential there. I know it's quite a way through his pro career. He was still working as a cop in Texas, which couldn't be ideal for your preparations and so on. So he was doing it while still holding down a job as well, which is pretty tough. I didn't know if he would be Mr. Olympia. I just knew he had the potential. Whether that's going to be achieved or not is a different question. And I didn't know Ronnie personally well enough to know his mentality at that point, so whether he would be able to do that. But later on, I could see that he was very dedicated. You know, often when you get somebody with a lot of physical potential, they don't have the mental capacity or the hunger to go with it. Sometimes things come a bit too easy for people and they don't really appreciate it. But Ronnie was not like that. Ronnie is kind of like myself. You know, he's a worker. We worked the competition into second place. I saw Ronnie on the road, always doing his cardio, always training, never taking a day off, where the other guys, you know, they would take some downtime and so on. So later on it became apparent that he had not only the physical potential, but the mental potential and the determination to, you know, to achieve his potential. I do remember I was in New York, 1998, because I did I officially made my retirement speech there, so it was quite an emotional time for me, and I remember that contest well. And somebody said to me, Ronnie could take this, and I kind of thought, wow, I don't think Ronnie's going to beat Flex, because, you know, comparing the best that I'd seen before, the two of them, but Ronnie had made some great improvements that year, and he was the winner. So yeah, he was in great shape. He had the size, but he was also, at that point, also still very cut, in very good shape. So I think myself and everyone else there recognized that he was the winner. No, not at that point. You know, I don't think anyone was thinking about that at that point. It was just a surprise that Ronnie was able to improve so much and win, but I didn't really think about what would happen next year. It wasn't no longer my concern anyway. I wasn't competing, so it's the other guy's problems. But obviously, when the second time he won, then we all knew that he was in for a run there, barring, you know, things that can happen, injuries, accidents, so on. No, not at all, because Lee Haney already had the record about numbers. He had the 8 Mr. Olympias, Ronnie matched that. And I was never, everyone was always asking me, you know, when I won the 4th one and the 5th one, are you going to try and beat Lee Haney's record? And honestly, it was never even a consideration for me. I'm just like, as long as I'm doing this and I'm enjoying it and I'm doing well, I'm just take 1 year at a time. And I feel really satisfied that even though I had 6 and, you know, Ronnie's got 8, Lee Haney's got 8, I never thought about that. I was just taking 1 at a time. And 6 wins in the 90s, in the period that I was in, I think was the most competitive period. So I guess those 6 wins are maybe equal to a higher number if you look at the depth and the quality of the competitors I was up against. So, and I knew after my injury, I had an injury in '94, of course, the torn bicep, and I had another one, tricep tendon tear in '97, and I knew after that that I couldn't be at my best. So there's no point competing if you can't be at your best. So I'm glad I retired then than rather trying to continue and I get beaten. I was, you know, I retired unbeaten, so I'd prefer to do that than risk getting beaten by somebody because I couldn't train 100%.